The Trump administration is under judicial scrutiny as House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries presses a federal judge to impose a firm deadline for complying with a Supreme Court order to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Maryland man deported to a Salvadoran prison. Today's hearing before U.S. District Judge Paula Zines will focus on the administration's efforts to secure Abrego Garcia's release from El Salvador's Terrorism Confinement Center, SECOT, a high-security facility known for harsh conditions. In a Monday MSNBC interview, Jeffries underscored the need for swift judicial action to enforce the Supreme Court's ruling. The court needs to set a deadline for compliance with the directive related to returning Mr. Garcia, he said. He suggested that if the administration fails to act, Zines could pursue contempt proceedings against key officials, such as the Secretaries of State or Homeland Security or their designees. Jeffries framed the issue as critical to upholding judicial authority in the face of executive resistance. Abrego Garcia, a 39-year-old Salvadoran national, was deported on March 15, 2025, despite a 2019 immigration court order barring his removal to El Salvador due to documented fears of gang persecution. The Justice Department has labeled the deportation an administrative error, but alleges Abrego Garcia is a member of the MS-13 gang, citing a 2019 claim from a confidential informant linking him to an MS-13 chapter in New York. His legal team insists he has never lived in New York and notes that no criminal charges have been filed against him in the U.S. or El Salvador. Judge Zines has described the government's gang allegations as vague and lacking substantiation, raising doubts about their validity. On April 10, 2025, the Supreme Court ordered the administration to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return, rejecting arguments that it lacks authority because he is in Salvadoran custody. The 6-3 decision asked Zines to clarify her order's use of effectuate, acknowledging the executive's role in foreign affairs but emphasizing the illegality of the deportation. Since the ruling, the administration has offered limited updates, stating only that Abrego Garcia is alive and secure, in SECOT, detained under El Salvador's jurisdiction. This sparse response has drawn criticism from both the court and Abrego Garcia's attorneys. Attorney General Pam Bondi has maintained that any decision to release Abrego Garcia rests with El Salvador, with the U.S. able to provide only transportation if he is freed. During a Monday Oval Office meeting with President Trump, Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele firmly rejected calls for Abrego Garcia's release, labeling him a terrorist and calling the idea preposterous. Bukele emphasized El Salvador's hardline stance against gang members, stating that his government does not release individuals it deems dangerous. The U.S. has paid El Salvador $6 million since 2024 to detain deportees under a bilateral agreement, a fact Abrego Garcia's lawyers argue gives the administration leverage to negotiate, though Bukele's comments suggest otherwise. Abrego Garcia's legal team, led by Simon Sandoval Moschenberg of the Legal Aid Justice Center, contends he was wrongly targeted. For 14 years, Abrego Garcia lived legally in Maryland under Temporary Protected Status, TPS, working in construction and raising 3 children, ages 8, 12 and 15, with his U.S. citizen wife, Jennifer Vasquez Sura. His attorneys assert he fled El Salvador in 2011 to escape gang violence, not to join it, and that the MS-13 allegation relies on a single unverified informant's tip. They have urged Zines to consider contempt rulings if the administration continues to defy court orders, arguing that its inaction violates due process. The administration counters that Abrego Garcia's alleged MS-13 ties, combined with Trump's 2025 executive order designating the gang a foreign terrorist organization, override his 2019 deportation protection. However, this argument has not been upheld in court. The Supreme Court's majority opinion, written by Justice Sonia Sotomayor and joined by Justices Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson, warned that the administration's position could allow it to deport individuals without accountability by sending them abroad first. A dissenting opinion by Justice Brett Kavanaugh, joined by Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, argued for deference to executive authority in matters involving foreign governments. Today's hearing will center on whether the administration has taken meaningful steps to comply with the Supreme Court's directive. Zines previously ordered daily updates on Abrego Garcia's status, but the government's responses have been minimal, often citing jurisdictional constraints. At a March 31 hearing, Justice Department lawyer Drew Ensign admitted he could not confirm Abrego Garcia's exact location within SECOT, prompting Zines to express frustration. "The record shows your clients have done nothing," she said, signaling potential consequences for further noncompliance. The case has garnered attention from Maryland lawmakers. Senator Chris Van Hollen plans to travel to El Salvador to discuss Abrego Garcia's situation with officials, citing concerns about due process. Representative Jamie Raskin, whose district includes Abrego Garcia's home, called the deportation a grave injustice and urged diplomatic efforts. Community groups have held vigils outside the Greenbelt Federal Courthouse, with supporters displaying signs reading "Justice for Kilmar." For Vasquez Sura and her children, the situation is deeply personal. She has described Abrego Garcia as a devoted father who coached soccer and helped with homework. Since his deportation, she has had no contact with him due to SECOT's strict communication limits. Legal filings note the emotional toll on the family, particularly the children, who face uncertainty about their father's return. The hearing's outcome could set a precedent for executive compliance with judicial orders in immigration cases. If Zines imposes a deadline and the administration resists, the case may escalate to contempt proceedings, a rare judicial step. Diplomatic efforts face challenges given Bukele's firm stance, and El Salvador's control over SECOT complicates matters. For now, Abrego Garcia remains detained, his fate hinging on the interplay of U.S. courts, executive actions and international relations.